to the Playing with Power podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things cedh, EDH, and Magic the Gathering. I am your host, TK. I am joined by the lovely and wonderful Alana, and today we are going to talk about the Topdeck Expo. It's the 8K cedh tournament that took place in Atlanta this past weekend. We're going to dive into all of the strategies and everything that came through from the latest event, as well as Alana's experience playing. But first, we're going to talk about our sponsors. Our merchandise is now available in our store. We have dice, coins, tokens, sleeves, and more all available. Go to playingwithpowermtg.com and help support the channel. If you are looking for t-shirts, we also have a bonfire store. We have cool designs available, and all purchases help out the channel. You can also support us on Patreon. Patrons get access to our Discord, webcam league, playdays, early access to videos, names in the credits of our show, exclusive videos, merchandise, and the ability to be on an episode. There are tiers for everyone, so go to patreon.com/playingwithpowermtg and help support the show. And if you're looking to sponsor the podcast, please reach out in the email below. Alana, hello. How was your weekend? How was everything?
The weekend was good. I am busy doing a bad job hiding in the corner out of shame. It didn't go well for me. Went well for a lot of other people, so go for them. My weekend was not stellar, performance-wise, but it was still a very fun event.
Yeah, and that's what matters, is the fun part. Obviously, we like the win, but you've got nothing else to prove. Everybody knows you're already an amazing cedh player, so
I still want to do well. Still want to keep doing well.
100%.
It hurts me a little bit to play poorly. So it happens. We bounce back, but yeah,
absolutely
not the best weekend for me.
Yeah, totally get that. If you guys have been living under a rock, probably one of the biggest cedh events, I think people are saying ever, but definitely in recent history, just happened down in Atlanta, Georgia this past weekend with the Topdeck GG Expo. It's an 8K, so a lot of money on the line this weekend. I was unable to make it because I was unfortunately sick. Had I made it, I probably would have won, went undefeated the entire time on
obviously, clearly.
Yeah, bring, I don't know, Borborygmos and Rage, and cleared house. But, I decided, I'm feeling a little cold. We'll let everybody else have a chance. But no, in all seriousness, it looks like an amazing turnout. Tell us a little bit about your experience. How was the venue? How was everything? Give us kind of insight into everything.
The venue was good. Mm-hmm. It was in one of those collectible type expos where they have a bunch of pop-up booths, and there's figurines and cards and old video games.
Yeah,
it was really cool. If you're a nerd who likes card games, you probably like those type of things where you have all the paraphernalia of from anime stuff and superhero stuff and all that. It was really fun. I picked up some One Piece sealed product and some coasters and some magic cards I needed, and it was really cool venue.
Fire. Yeah, I was looking at a couple pictures this past weekend, and it seemed really nice. It seemed like they spaced it pretty well, which is always something.
Yeah, the play space was fine. Yeah. Not super amazing, but not bad. It was perfectly acceptable. There was a separate play space for they ran a Yu-Gi-Oh event, a Lorcana event, and a One Piece event, I believe. Mm-hmm. Not as good a turnout for those, I think, but the Magic event turned out 200 people. So.
Ooh, yeah, that's a pretty big turnout for sure. Yeah, they had a lot of stuff going on too. This was not just solely the cedh 8K. I heard the Lorcana was there, Yu-Gi-Oh. I think there was a Pokemon event. There was if you were a nerd for cardboard this weekend, there was definitely the place to be for sure.
Yeah, I thought the One Piece event was Sunday, so I was oh, if I do bad, I get to play the One Piece event on Sunday. And no, it was on Saturday, so it's oh well, I did poorly, and I don't get to play in the One Piece event. So, yeah.
Oh God.
So, well. But yeah, it was good. It was a good time. Seeing all the as you go, if you're a grinder, you get to see all your other grinder friends, and it's always a good time.
Yeah.
Even though I did poorly, like seeing everybody, saying hi to everybody. And it's always like it's always the best part, no matter who does well or who wins or who doesn't do well.
Yeah, absolutely. You heard it here first from Alana that the best part of Magic the Gathering actually happens to be the gathering part. It is
It's
not the
true. It's
winning.
true.
Yeah.
As much as my cold heart hates to admit it, yeah,
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. It,
It's great. It's great seeing everybody.
yeah. Okay. So, um, this how many rounds of Swiss was it? I can't remember just off the top of my
It
head.
was 5 rounds of Swiss on the first
Mm,
day, 2 rounds of Swiss on the second day.
mm,
I had no chance of topping after round 4, I
mm.
believe. Yeah, after round 4. So I was just like, okay, well, we'll go chill with the homies and hang out and do some other things. So
Gotcha. So okay, nice standard experience there. In terms of like the rounds and everything. So I guess
yeah, so
yeah.
to state like basically what eminence is standardized. I personally would always like to see more rounds. I think that is always the goal, but it is hard logistically. But more rounds is always nice.
Yeah.
But we haven't changed the formula yet, so hopefully maybe in the future we can get more rounds. Like I I always tell this to people, they're like, I'm there to play Magic. Like I want to play Magic from like 9 a.m. to like 10 p.m. and however many rounds that facilitates, like I'm down. Like
Yeah.
bring your snacks, bring your water. Like
Exactly. Yeah, especially if you travel, for the event.
uh-huh.
I'm not
Yeah.
just gonna travel here just to play 2 rounds and then be like, all right, cool, that's it. And my opponents don't show up for the next one, and then we draw. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool, great. No, I want to play. I paid this money.
Oh yeah, I want
Yeah,
to play. I want there to be no doubt that we played a bunch of Magic
yeah,
and that I won the most or whatever.
yeah,
Because there's still the problem, right, in these multiplayer tournaments sometimes when you're like, okay, well, I won the first 3 rounds. I can just draw out now, like for the most part, and usually everyone else is happy to draw out as well because that means they'll also be in top cut.
yeah,
So, and we've talked at length about this with Eminence and some other people, and like there's no super good way to fix it as far as we can tell, except for like just more rounds. And but that offers a lot of logistical challenges that I'm sure they're working through. So.
yeah, for sure. Probably, a lot in terms of like making sure you hire the judges for longer, having the venue prices be
Mhm.
open. Yeah, but definitely, I agree with you. I would love to see more rounds just in general for a lot of events. As much as people might begrudge being there till like 10
Yeah,
o'clock playing
I
Magic.
I want to play more Magic. I
Yeah,
don't, I don't want to play less Magic. I want to play more Magic.
exactly. You paid for that deck. Let me see it. I want to play. Uh,
Yes, I want to show off the deck. I want to play Magic. I want to play Magic with different people. I want to play Magic with people I don't know.
yeah,
I wanted I wanted to have more rounds to like make up points if like in the first few rounds I didn't do well. Like
exactly. Okay, so with everybody kind of now having an idea of kind of what the event was like, your standard Eminence affair. Walk us through your round by round kind of experience because I
yeah, well
know,
we'll,
yeah,
we'll take a short jaunt through my my travesty of rounds here because
yeah,
they did not go my way. If the first game was any indicator, maybe I should have known. But in the first game, I at least felt like I didn't do anything wrong. I think everyone played well. There weren't
mm,
like any glaring mistakes. Um, so I was in first seat.
mm,
We had a 5 color Sisay in second seat.
okay,
We had Atraxa, the new Atraxa,
mm,
in third seat, and then we had another Rocksai player, actually a friend who was borrowing Zane's deck
got you. Oh
on
wow,
Rocksai.
yeah,
So that was the pod. I was like, basically my game plan going in was if I can help the table stop the other Rockside player, I get to go off second and win.
and when
And that
yeah,
and that was my plan. And I can't remember if this is my first 7 or my second 7, but I had Wheel of Fortune, Demonic Tutor, Lion's Eye Diamond, Brain Freeze, Soul Ring, Mana Confluence, Mind Big Trap. So I can either like turn to wheel if no one's really developed their board, or I can mind break trap anything out from the rock side if they go off turn 1. And then I can set myself up for like a DT on the stack, crack LED, get breach, win type line. And my hope is that all the interaction on the table has been used by the time I do this, because it's a little risky. So this hand might be a little risky, but it was good enough. It did anything I wanted. And I was feeling pretty good about it, honestly, because the Mind Break Trap is really good against Darkseid.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think my first draw for turn was it was either I think it was a Swan Song. Yeah, I think it was a Swan Song.
Okay.
And I just went land, Soul Ring, go. The cedh player dropped a lot of stuff. I think it was like a Chrome Logs, a Dork, and an Esper Sentinel.
Okay.
Basically dropped their whole hand.
Yeah.
So if that game goes, I know if the game goes anywhere past like turn 3, the cedh player is just going to get out of hand very quickly. And then the Atraxa player when land Lotus Petal, don't pay for Esper, go, which I was curious as what they keep. My read was like, oh, you must be holding an up interaction, and
Yeah,
you don't want to crack your Lotus
absolutely.
Petal for the Rog size.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, sure. And then the other Rog player went land Rog go. So my read was they have like a Vamp tutor or something, right? Like an instant speed tutor that they're gonna drop. That's usually what I'm doing if I go like land Rog go. I have some kind of instant speed tutor because otherwise you don't generally keep hands like
No.
that. So
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
mystical tutor, a Vamp tutor, something like that. Then I went to my next turn. I think I drew a second land. And then so my plan was to hold up a Swan Song and Mind Break Trap for
Mhm.
anything dangerous. And then hopefully on my turn 3, I can do the whole risky demonic tutor, crack my LID, and go for breach win.
Right.
Sisei at this point has drawn a few cards off Esper from. Did I play any? Yeah, I played my LED out, so he drew off that because I wanted to hold up my mana for the Swan Song.
Mhm.
And then I passed the turn, hoping that Rogsai would try to go off, and we would be able to stop them, and then I could go off.
Right.
So Sisei has drawn quite a few cards, and then dropped more of their hand. I think they played like a Bloom Tender out. They had a lot of they had Mana Vaults. They played their whole
gas.
hand out. They went
Yeah.
down to one card, and like they're sitting there like drawing lots of cards up at Esper, and I was like, okay, this is fine. Like as long as like one of the cards in their hand and one of the cards they drop at Esper is some kind of interaction to help us out for the Rogsai if we need it. I think I'm okay with this because I don't really want the game to go longer than this anyway. So then we go to Trax's turn. I think this is like maybe one of the we'll find out later, but right, I think this is one of the pivotal moments of the game where maybe I made a mistake. I don't think so. Like face up information, I don't think so. But so the Traxa player goes their turn. They play another Mana Source, and then they play turn 2 Rhystic Study, tapping out, and. Rhystic Study tapping out into Rogsai is not like the greatest, but I mean, turn 2 Rhystic Study is turn 2 Rhystic Study.
Yeah.
So I decided to Swan Song it because the Rog passes on it, which I'm assuming that maybe they did have. They kind of like hesitated on it for a minute, but then they passed to me, and I was like, they might have one piece of interaction to protect their win. So I Swan Song it. I just don't want Rhystic on the field because if I have to go empty-handed for this breach line, I'm going to draw them a bunch of cards. Then basically anything will pull me out, and I just don't want that. So I Swan Song it, and no responses. We go to, he tries to force a deck on his turn by pitching 3 Fairy, so he reveals a bunch of information. And I'm like, oh, we can't do that. It's your turn.
Walk it back.
So it's like, okay, so now we have face-up free information that I at least have force negation against the Rog player's turn. So if we need 2 pieces of interaction, we're good. If we need more than that, it's going to rely on the Siscape player probably, because they have Esper Sentinel. So from the Swan Song and their Rhystic Study, the Sisei player draws cards because I want them to have something trigger the Rog's turn in case we need it. And we go into the Rog's turn. And we find out later that his hand he kept was basically 1 Mana Source, but if he top decks another Mana Source, it's like almost unbeatable, which he did. He top decked the land and the Mana Vault. I think his hand was like land, Dockside, Fierce, Tainted Pact, Grinding Station, and a few other things I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
But that was basically his hand. And so he leaves the turn off with the Mana Vault, Esper draws, and then he Docksides. And I'm like, oh no. Dockside makes like 6, and I'm just like, oh no. Because Rogsai with like that much mana is just not good. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, at least I have the Mind Break Trap for whatever comes next. So Dockside resolves. He makes 6. He snaps the Dockside, and I'm like, oh my god, like please stop. Yeah. And so I was like, hey, we need like, can you force a neg this? Like, I just don't want to I don't want to live in this world where they have that much mana. So He forced an exit, and the Rockside player has Fierce, and I'm like, oh god, like we're in such trouble.
Yeah.
And so I let the Fierce resolve because I'm gonna mind break the next like cast of Dockside.
Yeah.
So Snap resolves, he bounces the Dockside, and he replays the Dockside and mind break top it. I just want to like cut him off, come off as much mana as possible. He already got the first. If I could have mind break the first Dockside, I would have. I couldn't.
Right.
And so we mind break the Dockside. That happens. And he's left with I think he was left with a colorless from the Mana Vault and like 5 treasures, I
Yeah.
believe,
Yeah.
something like that. And so I was like, okay, I just need this to say player to have like one thing, right? Like I just need one thing. We just need one thing. And so he Diabolic Intent. That was one of the other cards I couldn't remember. He Diabolic Tents Rog away.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, okay, we're getting breached, we're getting something, we're losing this game. Unfortunately, Diabolic Intent resolves. Cystic player doesn't have anything. He goes off to eventually just like Oracle Tainted Pact. He just goes for the Oracle Tainted Pact line. I didn't have anything else. Cystic player didn't have anything. Atraxa player didn't have anything. And then we find out at after he wins that he also had Grinding Station. So had like the tutor got interacted with, he could have like Tainted Pact for Breach and then Breach Grinding Station Mana Vault and did that. So the hand was fairly unbeatable without more interaction from like Sisse or me or Atraxa. But the one thing that I think may have drastically changed how that game played out is if Atraxa had played turn 1 Blind Obedience. So we found out that Atraxa had Blind Obedience, and they didn't play it on turn 1 into 2 Rog size, which I think is probably a misplay. I mean, I don't know the whole context of their hand, but I think if I am the Atraxa player and I have turn 1 Blind Obedience against 2 Rogs, I think I just slammed that.
Slowing down all of those rocks,
his reasoning was that he wanted to turn 2 Ristic because he didn't have his mana situation was like not great.
Oh,
so he wanted
Petal,
he wanted the draw engine from the Ristic to like draw into more mana, and I just think that like it's slightly greedy. I don't know that it's like completely wrong, but it is. I think it's slightly greedy because like if you can go without a land drop or 2 against 2 Rock size if you have Blind Obedience in play. It buys you enough time to like that. It should like they usually have to deal with it unless their hand is straight up like Oracle Win or Breach Win that needs not LED, right. I guess, right? Like so I don't know, I think it was a little greedy. Maybe my keep was a little bit greedy. I'm not really sure. Like maybe I was supposed to like jam right away, but you find out later that there was a Fierce and a Force negation. So like I don't think anything was working out for me that game, honestly, except for the path that was like Siste player draws interaction and stops Rogside, and I get to win. I think that was that would have allowed me to win, but yeah, it happens. Their hand was very good. There's nothing I can do. I don't think anything was like too much of a misplay. Me personally, I wish like Blind Obedience came down, but it is what it is. So.
Yeah.
So I felt fine about that game. I was like, okay, we'll go to the next one. That's no big deal, So.
100%. I think, yeah, definitely. If I could see a world if one of you were playing a different deck that was not Rockside, that was a little bit slower, like a mid range.
Yeah, that was my argument. Yeah. I think maybe they were a little bit inexperienced, which is fine. If you don't play against these kind of decks, maybe you don't know where to interact, like. Or what is important, which is fine. It happens. Me, if I'm against 2 Rock size and I see turn 1 Blind Obedience, I'm slamming. Yeah. Like there's nothing stopping me from doing that. Yeah. Like I'll deal with the mana situation later. Blind Obedience hurting like Docksides or especially against Sisse as well, which is a very Dockside centric deck.
Yeah.
I think that's just where I'm at.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Because you have no idea. Like, they could have played, like, a Tyvar or anything. But if the dorks are coming in tapped as well, like, it doesn't matter too much. So, yeah, I think Blind Obedience definitely would have worked.
I think Blind Obedience was the play there. It's in your deck for a reason. If you're not playing on turn 1, and, like, it's the best on turn 1. Like, So it was a little sad there, but it happens. I make mistakes all the time. Yeah. People make misreads all the time. It happens. So.
Absolutely.
No grudge there, and like I was like, yeah, I can't beat that rock by hand. So you're like, yeah, good game.
Yeah, it definitely sounded like the nuts. Like, especially once you said diabolic intent, I was like, if he had another tutor, it would have been crazy. And then you said diabolic intent, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's stupid.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
had Dialogue Intent and Team Impact, and I was just like, yeah, I can't beat that. I didn't have like unless like he misplayed and put like two things on the stack at the same time, I can't beat that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
100%.
he played it well. We didn't have enough interaction for him, so he gets the W.
Yeah.
Which led me to round two. I was like, okay, that was fine. No, like no big disappointments. We're going round two. We're just gonna win round two. No big deal. And this is kind of where the day just plummeted off a cliff for me. I high rolled the matchmaking. I got first seat again.
Sick.
And then the second seat was I can't remember the name. It's the day night. Is it storm thing where like it reduces spells based on the power of it, and you get a counter every time it switches from day to night. It's like it starts with a V.
I
I
was
think.
like I want to say Vadric so bad.
Vadric,
Yeah.
Vadrak. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure someone will yell at me for not remembering the name, but
Yeah.
it's the day night is it storm guy.
Yeah.
Like he does the is it storm stuff. He reduces generic mana cost for spells. Yeah. So, third seat we had Kenrith. I didn't get to see too much of their deck, but I just assumed, generic mid-range Kenrith stuff.
Yeah.
Dockside, whatever. And then fourth seat was Anthony, who won the cookout on Kinnan. So he was on Kinnan again. And I think, let me pull up my mull here. So I had to mull super low. I like kept me and Anthony kept mulling like super low. We're like, we're just like, I can't find a playable hand. Like these hands don't do anything. And like we had known each other at cookout. We were like talking back and forth. We had like a close game in festival, Anthony and I, to like a win it. We were both winning in, and neither of us won. So we were like commiserating there. So we were both mulling low. We both mulled the 4. My 4 that I ended up keeping was Land, Mana Crypt, Jessica's Will, the One Ring. So I was like, I felt pretty good about that. Like the One Ring in first seat on turn 1, that seems great. Like that. As long as no one has a piece of free interaction, I should be able to like slow roll into a bunch of cards and win the game. And then I think I bottomed like land, Chain of Aether. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my 4. Justice Will, Mana Crypt, City of Bass, the One Ring, and I was like feeling pretty good about that. All the other hands were unplayable, so when I saw this hand, I was like, okay, this is functional.
Yeah.
And I think the Vadric and the counter player kept 7, so Justice Will making 7, exiling 3 cards. And I was like, okay, we're fine. The mull the 4 didn't matter. Like, we're good. We should be able to make something out of this.
Right.
As long as my One Ring doesn't get countered. And then Anthony mulled the 4. I was like, and I, like, I had him as the best player at the table, and I was like, okay, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Now the best player at the table, it was blue, has mulled the 4. Like, okay, cool. So we go in. I think my draw for turn it wasn't a land because I kept missing on lands, even with the One Ring. I forget exactly what it was. I don't think it was relevant. I can't remember. Might have been like a Cabal Ritual. I think it was Cabal Ritual.
Okay.
And so we do the thing. We go land, Mana Crypt, Jessica's Will, make 7, exile 3, and this is where it starts to go really downhill, and where like my brain just like stops functioning. We exile Underworld Breach off the top, and I'm just like, oh no, that's the best card in my deck to win the game. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh no.
Oh,
so no. I'm already exposed to Mindbreak Trap on the One Ring, so I'm gonna cast Breach first, just so it goes in my graveyard and doesn't get exiled. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, at least it's in the graveyard and not gone forever. Right. So I cast Breach. They're everyone kind of laughs. They're like, yep, like this is where we're at. And I think the other spells I exiled were like irrelevant, like not even a mana rock, just like nothing. It was like land, something irrelevant.
Yeah.
And so I cast the One Ring. It resolves, thankfully. So I was like, okay, feeling good about that. I draw a card, and I think it's like it's not a land because I don't draw any lands, which is like part of the problem that comes up. And so I passed the turn. I'm still feeling. I don't like that I've exiled Breach, but I'm still feeling fine. Like I have the One Ring. We're chilling. We're vibing. And the Vadrak player goes. I think he had a gemstone, and then he like land two cost rock, like Felwar Stone or something. Nothing like super explosive. I think the Kenrith player like Ancient Tomb rocks. I think that's it. And then the Anthony on Kennen, his 4 is like just a bunch of mana. It's like land, Dork, Mox Opal, Chromog, like something like that. I think he exiled the Chromox card that he drew for turn or something. Like it was just all mana. He just went empty-handed, put all the mana down, and like I can't remember if he cast Kennen on this turn or not, but like yeah, just like
Yeah.
so I'm just like, okay, I don't have to worry about him for a while. Like he's I know his whole hand, it's on the battlefield, it's just a bunch of mana. As long like we're just gonna be blind flipping Kennen for a few turns, which
Yeah.
as long as we don't hit
Just
like
flipping.
Void Winnower,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I'm chilling. Like I'm fine. So we go into my turn. I draw 2 more cards with the One Ring. I think it's like a Get Probe and something else. Still haven't drawn a land, and so we're still just chilling. We're just vibing, and we're like, okay, we're just gonna sit here, draw cards off the One Ring, no big deal.
Yeah.
Like, so I think I play like another mana rock out or something. Yeah, like a 2 rock with using my mana crypt and like pass the turn. I think I Get Probe the Vodrak, the Is It Storm player. I give her the Is It Storm player. And I'm like, what kind of I know what an interaction to expect out of Kenrith, and Anthony has no cards in hand. So like, what's in your hand? Like,
Right.
I know you're gonna have some wild cards, and they did. They had like something that made it something that base power 4/4 and gave it hexproof, and like an X spell that supposedly like wins them the game or whatever. And but there's no interaction. The only interaction they had was like a bounce spell.
Yeah.
It bounced with 3 or less, and I was like, oh, or it bounced anything, but it proliferated if it was a 3 or less. Was that card? From March of Machines.
Yeah.
So feeling pretty good. I feel like if I get to my next turn, I can draw enough cards and I have enough mana. I can probably just win.
Yeah.
So, go to the batter's turn. They develop their mana more. They leave a little bit of open mana. Kenrith player plays a little bit scared. He plays like another land and leaves all of his mana open. So he's like land, Ancient Tomb, Rock, and it's all open. And he passes to Anthony. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, you must have some things for me. And so we go to Anthony's turn, and I think he top decks some more mana, like a Grim Monolith or something. He plays out Kinnan, and then he has enough mana to flip. And so this is the like where I hold my breath, and I'm like, okay, what are we flipping into? So he flips Kinnan. He flips into a Llanowar Elves or something, and I'm like, whoo, 7 mana Dork. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, like. Okay, we're good. We're going to my turn. I get to draw 3 cards. Like this is great. This is amazing. Okay, so going to my turn, I have what I need to win. And I get to draw out the One Ring. So I'm like, okay, let's draw out the One Ring first. And in response to the One Ring, the Kenrith player flashes in Bowmaster. And my life total is super high, so I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like you're gonna ping me for like 3, 4, whatever. Like that's no big deal. Like you're gonna kill my Rod. Like that's also fine. I don't need it right now. But all of this is fine. So I absentmindedly put my Rog into the graveyard. I just kind of like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like he pings it, I make the motion, I put it into the graveyard, and then I go to draw my One Ring cards. I see one of them. I immediately set my hand down, and it was like, oh, my Rog is in my graveyard. Shoot, I didn't want to do that. So I was like, I'll just call a judge. So I called the judge. I was like, hey, explain the situation. I saw one of the cards, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I didn't necessarily want to put it in the graveyard, but that's where I placed it. And then I did things. So I was like, he's like, yeah, based on that information, we're not going to roll back. You can appeal it if you want. And I was like, no, it's not a big deal. I understand. Like, that's what they did.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. I was like, okay. And then I'm like, it's fine. Because I think I need to go for a Yawgmoth Will line anyway. And so Rog being in the graveyard is fine. I was like, whatever, we'll recover. It's not a huge deal. And so I have drawn Demonic Tutor and Grim Tutor off of the One Ring.
Okay.
And I think I had Imp Sealed or something for Dockside earlier, or maybe I think I had Imp Sealed for Dockside a previous turn that I had just forgotten about until now. So I lead on Dockside. I think Dockside makes like 6, and I'm like, okay, we're doing great. We have I think we have just the treasures open after the Dockside resolves, or am I missing something? We had the Mana Crypt, the land, and the rock, and we had 1 colorless. I think we had like the land and the colorless floating, and then 6 treasures or something. And I was like, okay, this is great. I have 2 tutors, Dockside's resolved, and I'm like, we have a Bowmaster that I don't really care about. and we have 1 blue mana for the counter. I'm like, so I probably have to play around like 1 piece of interaction. I know it's in Vadroc's hand. There's no counter spells.
Yeah.
And Anthony has no cards in hand. So I'm like, I have to play around 1 thing. And this is where it starts to go really downhill. And I outplay myself completely. And like, I have 2 tutors. And I need mana. And I need payoff. And my payoff can't be Breach, because Breach is in the graveyard from turn 1.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, what do we do? So we have to do a Yawgmoth's Will line or something, or like, like an extra turn thing, or like something. We have to do something. We have to I don't know what we're gonna do, but it probably involves the Yawgmoth's Will.
Yeah.
So, and then Oracle Consult or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I have Cabal Ritual, and I have like Dark Ritual, and I have all these rituals. I can make a bunch of black mana. I have Docksided, and I get really stuck on the black rituals into Yawgmoth's Will. And so, and playing around the 1 piece of interaction. And I get so stuck on this that my first tutor gets Pact of Negation, and my second tutor gets, like, pulling or I pause during my second tutor, realizing I've screwed up by getting Pact of Negation. Yeah. So I can't afford to play around the 1 piece of interaction, because I need to get, like, Culling the Weak and like Yawgmoth's Will, or like Snap is what I really should have done, right? Snap my Dockside, replay Dockside.
Make
like,
mana.
I needed to do 1 ritual, 1 Yawgmoth. I didn't have like room to do anything else. So if Kenrith had 1 piece of interaction, I should have just accepted it and just tried anyway. I learned that he didn't, because I got to do all these things for free. Like, as soon as the Demonic Tutor resolved, I should have just realized you don't have anything, right? Like, most things hit Demonic Tutor. The only thing that wouldn't would be like Mental Misstep, which I could have played around, right? I get Snap, I get Yawgmoth's Will, I get what's it called? Oracle Chain Pact, right? None of that is hit by Mental Misstep. He could have had Mindbreak Trap, but like I wasn't gonna beat that anyway. So I should have just like realized that earlier, and like not tried to be cute and get the Pact of Negation, because it completely ruined my entire turn.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there tutoring the second time, and I'm like taking forever, and the opponents are being way too nice. Like, they should have like been telling me to hurry up, because I'm just like trying to salvage this terrible mistake I've made.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? There's nothing I can do. I can't, because the problem was, as soon as I like tutored twice, I had like 1 mana left over, which is not enough to Yawgmoth's Will and start like the chain or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm just screwed. I couldn't do it, and I should have just like tried to like play through Mental Misstep and not worried about anything else. And so I was like, I spent far too long trying to fix this mistake, and I couldn't think of a line that would like remedy this, mostly because Breach is in my graveyard, right? Breach is so powerful. If I could just get Breach, a lot of these problems are resolved, but I couldn't get Breach. So I had to think through, and there was a line with Yawgmoth's Will if I hadn't tried to play around the 1 counter spell, which I figured out halfway through, and I'm like, God, this sucks. Like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And I had the Wheel of Fortune still, right? So, oh no, that's one of the cards I drew. So I drew Wheel of Fortune this game as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, there is a Bowmaster, and if I Wheel of Fortune, I'm going to like 6 or something.
Yeah.
But it's the only path I have to rectify my mistakes. So I get Wheel of Fortune, and I'm like, we just have to send it. Yeah. We just have to do it. So, and I have like a 2 mana rock to color fix. So I do all these rituals. I Cabal with Threshold. I play one of my Signets out, and then I Wheel of Fortune. I have 3 black floating. I'm basically just hoping for like a little bit of more mana, and then like a payoff or something. I'm like, I just have to hope. Yeah. So we wheel. Bowmasters does like so much damage to me. I go to like 4, and I'm sitting there looking at this new hand, and it has Vamp Tutor. I think like there was a way to draw, I think. I can't remember. And then a Consult. And I'm just like, oh yeah, there's a Get Probe in the graveyard. So I'm like, if I can get to Yawgmoth's Will, I can Vamp and like draw with Get Probe. And that should leave me at like 1 life, I think. It was really sketch.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I have to Consult for Yawgmoth's Will. And while I'm consulting for Yawgmoth's Will, I'm realizing I only have 3 black open. I still need 1 more mana to start the chain of like Rog, Culling the Weak, into all the rituals, into other stuff. And I'm just like, I'm still screwed. Like, I can't do anything. So we consult for Yawgmoth's Will. I get the Yawgmoth's Will, and I'm just like, yeah, I just have to pass turn. So I cast the Vamp Tutor, and I pass turn. I'm just like, hopefully it gets to my turn. I completely screwed this game up. And yeah. So I've also wheeled everyone a new hand because it was like, because I knew I was like, I'm probably not going, like, I'm not going anywhere. Because I did find out actually that the Vadrak's hand, whatever those spells were that I didn't know, was a win. So somehow it was a win, and I wheeled it away, and he was not happy about that. And I was like, sorry, I was trying to win because I had screwed up, and I knew that like probably someone was winning if I didn't do anything. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we are. I've thrown the game. I've thrown the game for my Vadrak friend over here, and he's not happy about it. So he passes. He plays like like a land passes. Kenner player tries to like Savine's his bowmaster, I think, and he gets it back, and and then we go to Anthony's turn. Anthony's drawn the nuts off my wheel, of course.
And he already has
so
all
he
the
he
mana.
just he like developed mana. He like plays Basalt out. Basalt tries to get Force Enagged. He like activates the wish. Oh, that's right. I played out a wish claw at some point. He activates the wish claw I gave him, and like got a piece of protection. I just completely threw this game. The moral of the story is I completely threw this game. Nothing interesting has happened after I threw this game. Sorry, opponents. It happens sometimes. So, if we had not been cute and just tried to win without trying to play around anything, we would have won. So, yeah, that was my round 2. It was great. Good times.
What I resonated so hard with the like breach getting hit off of J-Will, especially off of the like, for me too, like having played the little that I've played of like Roxai or whatever,
it just threw me. I was just like, oh my god, that's such an unlucky hit. Like what did I do to deserve this? And then it just kind of spiraled from there. Like breach is usually my go-to win, and it's like my brain short-circuited, honestly. It, like just so many mistakes because I accidentally breach off the top and just didn't like think my mana through for my Yogg's Will. Didn't think about like, for some reason I like thought I could afford to get protection plus ritual plus like Yogg's Will, which is not how that works at all. Like my brain completely short-circuited for that game. I don't know what happened. My mental was shot from that game. I just like could not come back. I tried my best in the next round, which we don't even just get to it. I'm just rambling about my rounds, but
you're good.
We'll just go right into round 3. Round 2 is complete. It was all my fault. Like I could not have made more mistakes, honestly. So I think the only mistake I did not make in that game was my mulligan. Like I think I mulliganed properly. They kept the right hand, and I completely misplayed it. Completely botched it through no fault of anybody but myself. Yeah. It was terrible.
It happens.
And so I was like feeling pretty bad, and like the round was over pretty soon, so I had a bunch of time to just stew in the fact that like I screwed up.
Yeah.
And Anthony, like, he was like commiserating. He's like, oh, that's so, like, he like felt so bad for me, and I was like, yeah, like this is not like I screwed up. Like, oh well, it was my fault. Oh, it felt so bad.
Yeah.
It was fairly embarrassing, but it happens. Can't always play perfectly.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Card Conduit. Do you have extra cards lying around that you don't use? Want to buy or trade for some extra cards but don't know how to maximize the value? Then you should try out Card Conduit. Card Conduit is the best service when it comes to selling your extra cards. Don't waste hours trying to find the best buy list price for your cards online. Simply send them to Card Conduit and let them take care of the rest. I've used Card Conduit multiple times already. I always use them to get the best value of my extra cards. I get fair prices for my cards, and they save me tons of time. They have 3 main services. Their standard service lets you send them unsorted cards of any value. They will sort, grade, and give you the best buy list price for your cards. Their curated service is similar. Send them your unsorted cards worth over $1 in value. They will charge half of the fee of the standard service and charge no fee per card. Their new sorted service is a great value as well. Choose cards in advance with their selection tool, send them sorted to Card Conduit, and they will grade and buy list them automatically. Save yourself the time of having to send to multiple sites and let Card Conduit do it instead. Their fee is only 2% with no fee per card. They give you the best price for your cards. They work with competitive buy listing partners, including ones not open to the public. Users get an average of 19% more for their collection than they would have from a major retail buy list, even with Card Conduit's fees. Card Conduit also optimizes buy listing for card condition as well. Since vendors have different penalties for wear and tear, Card Conduit will find the best buy list price against the specific condition of a card. So give Card Conduit a try today. If you sign up with my link in the show notes or the description, or use the promo code POWER, you'll also get 10% off their fees when you use their service. A big thanks to Card Conduit for sponsoring today's podcast.
But I was like, okay, I'm still live as long as I win out, and just have to focus down. All right, it's fine. Blah blah blah. Like we're just okay. We're going to the next round. So we
Yeah.
go into the next round, like 40 minutes later, and I weigh fourth. I'm like, oh, okay,
Oh,
not the
yeah.
greatest.
Yeah.
And so I'm going fourth. And first seat is a Nala, which I'm like, oh no, might just straight up lose to a Nala here.
Yeah.
Second seat is Nib Mizzet. I'm like, okay, well if the game goes long, I don't know if I can beat Nib Mizzet drawing a bunch of cards. So hopefully Nib Mizzet just never comes down.
Yeah.
Um, and the third seat is Rog Thras, which I assume is the polymorph version, but I don't know for sure.
Mhm.
And the way he talked about some things that happened in the game, I'm pretty sure it was the polymorph version.
Right.
So, and I'm in last. I'm Roxy. I had to mull low in this game again. I think I mulled to either 5 or 4, and my hand basically said turn 2 Ristic Study. Although it was like a sketchy turn 2 Ristic Study. It was like I had to sack Rog to Phyrexian Tower on turn 1 to play an Arcane Signet to get the blue source, and then like play a Lotus Petal out, and then that was my mana for turn 2 Ristic Study. So my Rog has already like been used one time basically, and I'm like, it doesn't feel great. But I should be able to like play turn 2 Ristic Study and like, do something.
Right.
So yeah, and I think I got the Ristic Study with an Imperial Seal off the Signet. So like it was basically my whole hand was just like, okay, I'm gonna get this Ristic Study. And if we get blown out, we get blown out. But I'm going fourth, and like I've already mulled low.
You gotta go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta go for it. Oh, actually, wait, I forgot I have my hands. Yeah, here. So I did not mull low. Sorry, I did not mull low. I kept a hand that interacted with Anala and or Rock Pass if they went fast. And then I kept a gamble for the Ristic Study. That was the risky part.
Okay,
I had a gamble for Ristic Study. So we had Arid Mesa, Mindbreak Trap, Pyroblast, Gamble, Arcane Signet, Phyrexian Tower, Lotus Petal. So we had a gamble for it. So we Phyrexian Towered. We played out the Lotus Petal. We played the Arcane Signet off the Phyrexian Tower. We tapped the Arcane Signet for a red, and we gambled. 1 in 5 chance to discard Ristic Study. Most of my turn 1 gambles don't go well, so I wasn't feeling great about this. Thankfully, we discarded the Arid Mesa, so like, okay, that's like fine-ish.
Yeah.
I was good with discarding Mindbreak Trap, Pyroblast, or the Arid Mesa. And Pyroblast was the one I wanted to discard the most because I would have had to crack my Lotus Petal to use it, and I was like, I don't want to do that unless I absolutely have to.
Right.
So thankfully, we didn't discard the Ristic Study. We passed, and we're like, okay, on turn 2, I can play Ristic Study.
Yeah.
So the Nullifier has mulled low. I think they played a Demir Signet on turn 1, and then they kept hitting land drops, which is weird because I think they topped out Mystic Remora on turn 2, and so they got to play out Mystic Remora. And I was like, oh, yep, that'll save just about anything. Yeah. So they play Mystic Remora. The Niv tries to play turn 2 Ristic Study, I believe. Yeah, turn 2 Ristic Study. And as much as I want to Pyroblast this, I don't because I want to cast my own Ristic Study.
Absolutely, yeah.
I pass on it. I let it go. The Rog Thras is also mulled low. I think they mulled to 4. And they on turn 1 they played land, Rog, Paradise Mantle, equip Paradise Mantle to Rog. So 3 of their cards are already gone, so they have like 2 cards in hand. They're nothing much goes on there, like basically the entire game, unfortunately. I think they just top decked very poorly and just had nothing going on. Yeah, so I let the Ristic Study resolve. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Niv has a Ristic Study. This is not the best thing, but also like I want my own Ristic Study and hopefully we can just fight through. And then the Niv plays Meltdown for 0. So kill all your 0 rocks, and I'm like, damn, wish I Pyroblasted the Ristic Study.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I crack the pedal, I float a red, and the Meltdown resolves, and it kills the Paradise Mantle, which puts the Rog Fast player who's mulled to 4 even farther behind.
All the way back, yeah.
All the way back, and so I'm like, okay, well, we're going to Pyroblast your Ristic Study now before you move phases. And so it happens. The Ristic Study's gone. I'm like, okay, well, at least you don't have Ristic Study. Like, awesome. I'm like, so I'm not feeling good about this game already because like I have to get lucky and top deck a mana source to play my Ristic Study now.
Yeah.
So Rock Thras passes. They basically don't do too much throughout the game. I think they just didn't top deck anything. Like they would like look at me and be like, "Yep, I don't have anything," and they would pass the turn. So like I think they are basically in the same boat as me. So like, I think the Niv. Oh yeah, the Niv also tries to protect the Ristic Study from the Fire Blast, and then I have to Mind Break tap it. So I basically have discarded my entire hand at this point, which really sucks. Yeah. So go into my turn. We don't top deck a mana source, and I pass. And the game goes on like this for a while. The Anala player keeps paying for the Mystic Reward, which is very strange to me because they imp sealed at some point, and I'm just like, what did we imp seal for? I'm so confused. So the Anala player is like playing Drago. The Niv player starts playing Drago for a long time. They have like 5 lands and like some mana rocks, and they just like the Null player and the Niv player just draw going, and I'm just like, what is happening? And then the Rog Grass player and I are draw going, but for different reasons. It's because we have nothing. We have no resources. We have like little to no mana, no cards in hand that do anything, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how I'm gonna win this game. And then at some point, I think the Null player imp sealed, like I said. So right before we went into their turn, I had finally drawn a mana source for the Ristic Study, and I was like, okay, Niv player, you have 1 billion cards in your hand. Are you just going to counter my Ristic Study if I try and play it? If I tap out and play Ristic Study, are you just going to counter it?
Yeah.
Because I had replayed Rog at some point for 2 mana because I had nothing else to do. And I was like, if I draw Fierce or something, at least I can do something. And so I'm like, if I just tap out players, I say, are you just countering it? Because I just won't play it if that's what you're going to do. So we can have a counter spell for Nala. Just like straight up, like level with me. Like, and I think she was like, no, I don't know. I think I'll let it resolve. I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it. Whatever. So we play the Ristic Study, and like she pauses, and I'm like, oh no. And she passes that. I'm like, okay, we have a Ristic Study. We have a Rog. I pass. Hopefully get through it all thing. And then Anala draw goes again. They pay for fish, they pass. And I'm just like, what?
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, what is going on in this game? What did you tutor for? Yeah. I basically have no read on this table at all at this point anymore. So we go into the Niv player's turn. They pass again, and we sit here. We sit here again, except the only thing that's different is now I have a Ristic Study. And we're just like, draw going. I think the Niv player at one point plays a Weathered Runestone. And I'm like, okay, now the Rog Grass is even like more out of this game. I was just like, I can't go for it. Like, I have like some semblance of like a win in my hand, but I have nothing to protect it with. And there's a Niv player and a Null player that just have a whole pile of cards. I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I don't know how to play this game right now. I have no idea. Like, we're getting closer and closer to time. I'm like, I don't know how to win this game. This is bizarre.
Yeah.
And so finally, the thing that opens the game up is the Anala player starts to do things. They go to their turn, they let their fish die, and I'm like, okay, they're gonna try and do things. Like we're trying to do something. And so I think they like lead on Mnemonic Betrayal, and I have like Gamble, Imp Seal. I have a bunch of stuff in my graveyard that basically says win the game.
Yeah.
With combined with whatever is in their hand, and then I also have a Mind Break Trap, Pyroblast. I have like good counter spells in my graveyard. So I was like, if this resolves, we're probably dead.
Right.
They don't have too much mana available once they Mnemonic Betrayal. So that's like where I'm hoping to cut them off, like when they are low on mana. And so we fight over the Mnemonic Betrayal, and the Niv has a Mystic Grimoire at this point. We're drawing cards back and forth, and the stack gets really messy. It's like every time someone does something, there's like 3 triggers that go on the stack, and it gets really, really messy. So we fight through that, and I start having to manage the stack, and we're like laying out with tokens, and we're like, okay, you pass. Very methodical, like just to make sure nothing like gets skipped. And Mnemonic Betrayal resolves. So I had put my Rog in the graveyard at some point. I think it got killed by like a Niv trigger or something, or I'm not really sure. Because then I played Silas at some point just so like my Fierce would be on if I drew it.
Yeah.
And this Mnemonic Betrayal has resolved. And so he starts casting things, and he starts triggering my Ristic Study, starts triggering the Mystic Grimoire, and so now me and Niv are drawing a bunch of cards now. And so at some point, I have drawn Daze, and they only have a black mana available, and they want to cast my Imperial Seal. And for whatever reason, they tapped their Mox Opal for the black mana, and then did something else. They cast the Niv's Ristic Study.
Okay.
And so you have a black mana floating weirdly enough. And I was like, okay, now I'll daze. So I'll daze you, and I'll daze the. Oh yeah, they put the Rhystic Study in the stack. So I daze the Rhystic Study. I was like, no, I don't want to deal with another one.
Yeah.
And so that happens. They're like, oh, I would have to use my black mana for that I want to use on the MCL and blah blah blah. And so I think they just, oh no, they do pay it. They pay it. And so like, I'm going to give up the MCL to have the Rhystic Study. They pay it. Niv doesn't have anything. We have another Rhystic Study. I'm like, oh no, we have like 10 minutes left in round. And I'm like, there's no way I'm getting another turn. Like, Anala's right after me. We have 2 Rhystic Studies, a Mystic Remora that can be paid for forever from the Niv player. Like, there's no way we're ever getting to my turn. Like, I was just so, like, my mental was so down of, like, managing the stack and, like, the weird interactions and, like, just, like, unpredictable, right? Like, when you play against players that you're not used to, or, like, it was just so, like, I didn't have a read on them at all. I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on in this game. I can't predict what you're going to try and do. I have no clue. So hopefully we just get back to my turn and I can have the last turn, because I have like 15 cards in hand at this point, and that's enough to win the game as long as I like do things properly. So we go to the next turn and they cast a Jewel Lotus, and I'm like, oh no, here it comes. And they cast Niv, and I'm like, yep, can't do anything about that. My main break trap is in the graveyard, because they did, I think they did expose it to my break trap. And so yep, Niv's on the battlefield, and I'm like, great. And they immediately put Curiosity on the stack, and I'm like, oh no. So this is where like it gets even worse. So now every time someone casts a spell, Niv triggers, Mystic Remora triggers, my Rhystic Study triggers, and the Anala player's Rhystic Study triggers. So I'm just like, no chance, no shot I'm getting back to my turn. It's over. Like, there's no way. It's either a draw, a loss, or whatever. Like, there's just no way. So the Rockgrass swats the Curiosity. I'm like, okay, like we have a start. Bunch of triggers. You know, this stack gets out of hand. We immediately call it Judge, because I'm just like, this stack is gonna be disgusting. Yeah. Like, just can you just sit here? We'll probably need you at some point. Yeah. Like at some point we're gonna need your help, because something is gonna like make the stack unmanageable. And so the Niv player responds with their own deflecting spot. And this is where like this is like what happens in the game where I feel bad, because they swat the Rockfast swat, and I had like a brain fart of like, wait, does that work? Like, I know it works on counter spells. Does it work on swat? And I like thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't know if that works. And like the judge isn't really allowed to say anything unless you ask them a question, I think. I'm not really sure about that. But like I like float the idea, like, I don't know if that works. And so they don't get the Niv player doesn't get clarification, and I don't ask for clarification, because it's not my Curiosity I'm defending, right? So I don't really care. Like, if it works or if it doesn't work, I don't really care. And so we fight over the SWAT, and then finally we like manage to stack all the way back down to their SWAT, and they're like, oh yeah, I want to point it at their SWAT. And I'm like, are you sure? And this is where there's still like Rhystic Study triggers and Niv triggers on the stack, right? So you could point the SWAT at like a trigger or something. It won't do anything, but you can do it. Yeah. And so I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, I want to point at the SWAT. And I'm like, right. Okay. And then so now she gets to change the targets of the Rockfast player's SWAT, and there's still triggers on the stack at this point. And she's like, I want to change SWAT to Curiosity. And I'm like, that what? I'm like, but it's already at Curiosity. And I'm like thinking this in my head. I'm not saying this. I'm just like, I mean, I want this to happen because it won't do anything, right? Like, and so at some point I had said, oh, Curiosity is the only legal target for SWAT, which was like a bit of a it is a misspeak, right? Like, because you can target anything. You can target an ability, you can target like, and so like, I like tried to back that up, but I don't know if this is the case, and I feel bad. This is the part I feel bad about. I'm like, oh, it's the only legal target for SWAT. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, that's not true. And so I think it was like, I unintentionally misled her, where I was like, oh, you can only target Curiosity to the SWAT, right? And so while there were triggers on the stack, and while Curiosity was still on the stack, She was like, yeah, I want to point SWAT at curiosity. I was like, are you sure?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to help her because I don't
Yeah.
want this to resolve, but I was like, are you sure? I was like, I'll at least give her a chance to be like, final answer, right? Like,
Yeah.
at least like think about it. Like, are you sure this is what you want to do? And she kept like talking about the targeting ability of the aura, and I was like, but it's a spell on the stack, right? It's not like that's not what's happening. So
Yeah.
the trigger's resolved. She pointed at curiosity, and the rock fast player and I were like, okay, so nothing happens. And she's like, wait, what? And she like tried to appeal to the judge, and the judge was like, no, you had other things you could target, and let it resolve, and blah blah blah. Because the judge was there the whole time, so I feel bad. But at the same time, like,
Just
it's up to you. Like, I don't have your best interest at heart, right? I'm your opponent, and I was like, I feel bad about this, but this is what happened, and sorry. Like, yep. I feel a little scummy about it, but
the comments are gonna boo you.
Yeah,
so
comments, you can eviscerate me. Like, I felt bad about it, and I was like, and I at least was like, while there's still other stuff to target on the stack with the SWAT, I was like, are you sure? I was like, are you sure you want to do this? Because she could have pointed the SWAT away to like one of the triggers still, and she didn't, because I think she was just flustered and confused, and I feel terrible about that.
Yeah, but at the same time,
like,
the judge is
but
there,
at the same time, I was like, I want to win, and you pointed at this thing that doesn't work, and oh well, and maybe I misled you a little bit. It wasn't intentional. I'm sorry. Oh well. Comments come eviscerate me. I feel bad about it already, so you can just make me feel worse. So that happened. I was like, okay, and they had like 12 cards in hand, so I was just assuming that we would like fight over something else anyway.
Yeah.
And so like, and then so I think. No. What happened? Oh yeah, like it got pointed away, and at some point throughout all of this, I had Deadly Relic the Niv, and they didn't use anything on the Deadly Relic, so it ended up not mattering at all. Because like I basically wanted to expedite the stack to be like, I want to get to my turn. So in the middle of all of this, me feeling bad and like us fighting over like where the SWAT is going, where this SWAT is going, I just Deadly Relic the Niv. I was like, I'm over this. Like, I'm just gonna Deadly Relic the Niv. We can stop talking about how SWAT works. And then if you have something for that, we can deal with that.
Yeah.
So that happened. And I found out later that they had Mindbreak Trap in hand. So I think, I don't know what went on in this game. It was bizarre. I don't know. So regardless, we make it through the Niv Curiosity turn, and we go and she like, what is it? Docksides. And I was like, okay, I don't want you to have mana for all the spells in your hand. So I packed a negation the Dockside. And my intention is that I have Born Upon a Wind in my hand. And I'm just going to Born Upon a Wind on top of my pack trigger and try and win that way.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I've dealt with all your stuff. We're done. The stack's resolved. We go to the Rock Grass player's turn. Rock Grass player passes and like gives me a chance to have a turn, which I thought was really nice. Like, I don't think he didn't need to do that, but he like passed. And so like we go into time. It's my turn, and on top of my Pact of Negation trigger, I Born Upon a Wind. And this is where I find out that they had Mindbreak Trap. And I thought they had drawn it off their Mystic Aurora, but no, they had Mindbreak Trap all along. And I was like, nothing matters. I didn't draw like a force, or I didn't have anything else. I had like a mental misstep and like nothing else, I think. Yeah, I drew like nothing. I had like 25 cards in hand, and literally I think the only pieces of interaction were like Pact and like mental misstep or something. And then like I get probe them, and like we in the stack where we're fighting upon the Born Upon a Wind like finally resolves. And I draw like a get probe, and I like get probe them just to see like what's left. They have a Fierce and a Mindbreak Trap, and I'm just like, I can't beat this. Like I physically cannot. So when I go to Cabal Ritual for Threshold, they Mindbreak Trap it. I have nothing. I'm just like, okay, yep, we draw. Like this is the last turn. We're drawing. It was a very strange game. My takeaway is that I felt terrible about maybe unintentionally misleading this player. But you should also know what your spells do. So I don't know. Comments eviscerate me. That's okay. I already feel guilty.
Yeah.
And then like I just didn't draw enough counters to support my Born Upon the Wind turn. I didn't have the right cards. I didn't have too much agency in this game until like the Annul players started doing something. I did not expect like Annul and Wrongcast to just do nothing into Rhystic Study. So I thought Rhystic Study was a good tutor. Maybe that was wrong. I'm not really sure. So now my mental is completely shot.
Yeah.
But if I win out, I still have a chance. So that was round 3, and it was a
Yeah.
very strange game. You know, like when you play against certain players a lot, you know, there's predictable patterns, and then when you play against these players that you don't know how they play, sometimes you get a little bit lost, and that's where I was this whole game.
Yeah.
Like there was an Anala player draw going and a Nimizit player draw going, which I understand the draw go from the Nimizit player. That's kind of what the deck wants to do most of the time. But no one was doing anything.
Yeah.
You're just like staring. Everyone was just staring at each other with no cards at hand. Like it was a very bizarre game.
It definitely sounded like, just from the outside looking in, like you guys got caught into a game of chicken between the Niv-Mizzet
More or
and the
less.
Anali.
I don't know like what the Anala plan was, because once they started like using all their mana and casting the Rustic Study, like they just didn't have enough mana from the Monolith Betrayal to do anything. So maybe it was just like a value Monolith Betrayal, which I didn't expect, because like I think there was a clear line to victory there as long as you like have certain other supporting cards in your hand.
Yeah.
And the Niv players things mostly made sense. I just like the not using the mind break traps to protect their curiosity when was very strange to me.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so after that, I was just like, okay, well, we still have to win out. Nothing's changed. We have to win every single game, and we go into round 4. And this game, we can cut short, honestly, because it's super uninteresting. Because I had to mull the 2.
Well.
Yep. Then that was the end of my turn, basically. I mean, so just for completeness sake, I was going 3rd. In first seat, we had the Azorius bounce a land guy, Tameshi.
Yeah.
And then we had Crom. Ooh, what's the black green? Not Ikra, the other one. Rohan. Green black partner puts counters on something when it dies. I don't know. It's a cheap commander, I assume, for like turning on fierce or something, but it was basically Stan's white, like mid-range pile. He said he wasn't on Nas though, so maybe he's on little other like spicy things. So
yeah.
And then I was in 3rd seat, wrong side, and then when 4th seat we have Winota. So basically going into this game, I was like, I'm just gonna pivot to Oracle right away. I'm gonna look for hands that do the Oracle thing and wait for my turn. And then I proceeded to mulligan into like 6 unplayable hands. And I was just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
There was like one hand where it had like lands, Signet, Tainted Pact, and I just don't think I can ever keep that. I was just like, I'm hoping to top deck like another tutor or another like something like I don't think I can ever keep that hand.
Yeah.
So I go all the way down to 2. I keep a land and a Ragavan. And I was like, this is as good as it's going to get for me.
We're going to value monkey.
Yeah, we're going to value monkey. We're going to chill. So I don't hit anything good. I hit like a Signet off the Crom player. I play the Signet with the Ragavan. I think I draw like a Grim Monolith. So we have a bunch of mana. And so it ends up that I have a bunch of mana. The Winota player has like a Phyrexian Revoker on Tameshi. And then they also have an Aven Mind Cleanser. At some point, they had passed with 3 mana open, and I was like, oh, he has Aven. Like, it was the most obvious thing in the world. If Winota passes with 3 mana open very early in the game, my read is just generally Aven. And I'm like, and so I think it was the Crom player goes to Vamp Tutor, and the Aven comes out. I'm like, yep. And but they actually did a pretty cute thing where they vamped, they put Dockside on top. They vamped Even in response, and the response to Even they worldly tutored. And I was like,
oh, okay.
Is this going to get shuffled away? I was like, oh no, you can put Dockside on top with the worldly,
then look at
Even
the top
resolves,
4, yeah.
and then look at the top 4 with Vamp, and then put Dockside back on top. And I was like, oh, that's really cute.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's still got his Dockside. His Dockside gets mana drained by the Tameshi player because the Tameshi player put the One Ring on into play on turn 1 or 2. I think it was turn 2. Yeah, they played the One Ring on turn 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, this game's over. Like they're just gonna, no one has anything, and they're gonna sit there and draw cards with the One Ring. Like unless we get some kind of null rod from the Winota player, I think I'm dead. Like I think I'm out of this. So the dock side gets mana drained. The common player doesn't have anything for a while. I think they use a Psych Rift to stop the Tameshi's Mind Over Matter win with the One Ring. Um, and it doesn't matter because they get to untap lands with, they already have like 11 cards in hand, so they start discarding to untap their Ancient Tomb and their land and replay the One Ring, and then proceed to Mind Over Matter the One Ring and kill us. Not super interesting game. Nothing really happened. I Diabolic Contented into the Aven just to hope for something. Which is funny because if I had just trusted my deck with obvious, I would never actually suggest doing this, but if you're very desperate, maybe if I had tapped the Grim Monolith for the colorless to use the Diabolic Intent, I hit Necro in the top 4, and then I would have had 3 black sources to Necro and pay like all my life, and I'd still have a red open if I had like Simi and Final Fortune. So if I had just like blind trusted that I was gonna hit, something that needed a lot of colored mana, maybe we could have necroed and tried and won. I doubt it, considering Tameshi had like 8 cards in hand, but you never know.
Right.
So that was basically the last game, and Mind Over Matter, no interaction from anybody except for the Psych Rift, and again, the Psych Rift didn't really matter. So it was especially brutal tournament for me. I think there are a lot of points at which I probably could have played better, and there were also just like some unlucky stuff mixed in with that, and the combination of the two, I did not win any games. So
yeah,
I was a bit sad, and then hung out with some friends, which was a lot better. So
absolutely,
that was it for me.
Yeah, I mean, from how you're reporting the games, like it sounds like you did your best. Sometimes it just like,
I think except for round 2, I played fine for the most part. The round 2 just kind of like tilts me. I think in round 3 there are probably a few little things I could have done better, but it was a weird game where I think maybe what I'm supposed to do in that game is maybe mulligan a little bit more. I think playing turn 2 or 6 from C4 is a little whatever. I just expected the Anal player to feed it earlier, which they didn't. So I'm not sure what to take away from that. Because they tutored really early, and I was like, oh, okay, we're just going to go on a Spellseeker line. So, like, having the rest of the specific study down will be great. And then that was just not the case. So
100%. Yeah. I think, from what you said, that third game definitely sounded weird. It sounded like you guys got stuck in a game of chicken, but then also, depending on like the plays that Anala made, it almost seems like maybe that wasn't the case and they just didn't draw well.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they didn't draw well, or like they tutored something thinking something and then something else happened, and like I don't know. I genuinely don't know. The stack was messy, priority was messy, and like after the game was over, I was just like, okay, I just want to go to the next game. I need to forget about this. I need to forget about this just as much as I need to forget about the second game. So. And we went to time, so like there was no time to be like, hey, what do you think about this play? And what do you think about this play? Because literally, like, we were the last game of the round,
so next round's coming up.
Pack up immediately, go right to the next round. So it was a bit awkward. Hopefully, next big tournament I go to, we can have a little bit more prep time, a little bit more, time to play cEDH going into it. I did. Not to make excuses, I don't think I played super well, but I also just haven't had too much time to play recently. So
that'll do it too, though. Yeah, just like a little ring rust or whatever from just like not being able to play.
I definitely felt it a little bit. I mean, not too much. I mean, it's a deck I'm comfortable with. It's just a deck that requires a lot of tightrope walking, I like to say. So I don't know. Overall, it's still a very fun event. A bunch of other people played much better than I did, and on the same deck, so I'm super proud of them.
For sure. Well, we're still proud of you, Alana, for sure, 100%. And like I said, it's all about the gathering at the end of the day. And people surely did gather. I guess now, real briefly, we can talk about like the top 16, because I know a lot of people want to talk about kind of what was played. I know Ixalan cards were legal.
I know Dauntless, the Dauntless white card that is like a Blind Obedience kind of thing. A lot of people put in their deck for this event. I know there were some Franciscos, which combos with Walking Ballista and Soul Cauldron, right? You Soul Cauldron the Ballista, put it on Francisco, and then as long as the land isn't on top, you get to ping Explorer.
Yeah, Francisco Thras, I believe. Like a lot of people were really excited. I know I've been following that, and I believe there was a Francisco Crom as well, like a Grixis Pirates pile that I saw that was really cool.
Yeah, it's like fine. It's like you give up a little bit of the 0 mana cost of Frog, but you get Crom. I think Tevesh Crom is probably just a better version. If you want to play around with the, I'm not convinced that Agatha Ballista Francisco is like a good combo. But maybe it is.
Right.
Someone prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in action. Maybe it's easier to assemble than I think it is. But basically it adds another AB to your deck, I guess, which is never a bad thing. But
yeah. So I guess real quick we can like blast through this top 16. Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's almost what you would expect. Like multiple Timnacroms, multiple Rogrek Siluses. There's Sans White Pile from Judge Max, who, that's what he's been playing recently. He's top 16 again. I think it's his 4th top 16 in a row. So super proud of him. Waffle on Freedom Waffle on Timnacrom again, top 16 again.
Yeah.
Connor and Sergio did great. They played Rogsai as well, and they actually played well.
Yeah.
So they both top 16. And then Wyatt on Evo, which is Sans Black Evo, which is one of those more spicy ones, which I know Helenium is like kind of his pet deck.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably the most interesting deck in top 16. Everything else is like fairly standard for our meta. There is a Bjornia Wernog or like Lucas Will deck, it's basically Timnacrom. You get creature combos, right, that are hard to interact with. I think I was talking to one of the friends of the pilot, and it's like there's a pure creature combo, which is very hard to interact with. Like it's basically dockside loops, and you have to kill everyone with your commander, and that's all creatures. And that's hard to interact with. So maybe that's worth giving up the draw engines in the command zone. I'm not convinced personally. I think if it was, you'd see it a lot more. But it's super cool to see the top 4 here.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Looking through these lists, a lot of standard stuff.
A Niv top 16, not Shauna, by the way. So different Niv player topping with Niv. So and then we have Max Win Satellite on Kennen top 16 and again.
Yeah.
A lot of familiar faces in this top 16, honestly. And then a lot TNK, Kennen, Niv, Italian. I think the Italian pilot Max. There are lots of Maxes in the top 16, which I think is very very funny.
Maximum power in this.
Maximum top 16.
Yeah.
So this Max, Max P, Max P, right? Where is it? I just lost it. Yeah, Max Pepperman.
Yeah.
So he is a longtime Rakdos stan, and he usually plays Florian. And so when I saw him here, I was like, "Oh, hey Max, what's up? Like, what are you playing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm playing Talion." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, this is like the polar opposite of what you usually play. So we have a buyer in on your Control Winter. He played Talion. He top 16. He's a very good player. I've played against him a decent amount in tournaments, and he is on Talion, and he is playing super Control here. He is on. It looks like he is on Hullbreaker combos, which is kind of interesting. I'm not sure if he has an outlet. I'll be curious to what the outlet. I don't know if it's like just a control piece or if he can actually win with it. I don't see an infinite mana outlet, but I could just be blind. Like there's no ballista that I see here. But it might just be as a control piece, like cast an instant, bounce your thing. But other than that, fairly standard. He's on the Trickpine, which is a little bit spicy. He's on the Blood Chief Ascension to hope they kill people. Fairly standard Italian list, I think. I don't see anything except for maybe the Hullbreaker. Maybe Hullbreaker is standard. I'm not sure actually.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like there's any infinite mana outlet, but yeah. So I thought that was super impressive. Like very polar opposite playstyle from Florian Rakdos Turbo into Talion, and he top 16. It sounded like he played very well. I talked to him after a few of his matches, and yeah.
Yeah.
Super proud of Max. And then everything else, there is a Dargo Timna. I guess maybe that is the spiciest. I missed that one.
Yeah.
So as
Yeah.
opposed to, there's Evo, there's like Sans Black Evo, which is just basically focused on Breach and Evoing into Dockside for the most part. And then Infinite Mana, Thrasios, draw your deck, right?
Right.
So you have the normal like Dockside Emil lanes. You have the Teamer. Do you have Teamer Sabertooth? No, Teamer Sabertooth, but Dockside Emil, and then Auriok LED, and then Thrasios drawing your deck. It's also a Breach deck, which is always good.
Yeah.
It's on Grinding Station, so Grinding Station and Brain Freeze. So fairly, it's a 4-card pile. Most of those decks are kind of the same with like a little bit of like 10 slots or so for like a specific strategy. So.
Yeah.
And then, so I misspoke. Yeah, Timnath Dargo is probably the most unseen deck in this top 16. Everything else is pretty standard. Even Evo, I would say, is like more standard than this because it's a 4-color pile.
Yeah.
And it has Breach and it has Dockside combos. Like that's almost as meta as you can get, right?
Yeah.
But this Timnath, I don't know too much about Timnath Dargo. Timnath Dargo is a cool deck.
Yeah, I lost horribly to a Timna Dargo deck along with Mike at the cookout earlier in the year. Just because I was not expecting it to go off as fast as it was.
It's like really scary, right? Like,
yeah, you would think, with Timna there, you're like, oh yeah, it's got some cute combo things with Dargo, but like obviously it's gonna try and sit and play the mid range, but no, it's just as fast as any other.
It's very, very fast, and Dargo kind of opens up these like weird like sack lines where like you sack a bunch of stuff for Dargo, and then you sack Dargo to like sacrifice or something, and then like peer or like you do these like big mana moves or like it does like Razaketh lines as well. I believe this one on Razaketh. Oh, this one is not on Razaketh. Okay, but it is a very cool bat. It's still like Mardo like Turbo. But it has these very cool things with Dargo. I think the one of the cutest things you can do in this deck is Nixilis the Adversary, the Planeswalker. So if you casualty your Dargo, you get a copy of Nixilis with 7 counters on it, which you then can -7 and draw 7 cards, which is pretty cute. Yeah, so that's pretty fun. I think otherwise there's Magda lines. And then there's Parent of the Abyss, Beseech, Bless the Citadel Staff, Burnt Offering is another sacrifice type effect to get 7 mana from Dargo. Pretty standard Dargo stuff for the most part. You do lose the green like pot effects and like the greater good, but this is another version of. I think it's like this is the second most popular version of Dargo as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people would be mad at me if I did not talk about the TNT list just a little bit.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, it's Null Bird Tempo list here made top 4.
Who is it? Alexander, he top 4 with TNT, which everyone likes to poke fun at TNT. But this has every single null rod effect, I believe. It also has Oko. So this is a very like I want to turn off the meta, right? The meta revolves around fast mana Dockside, and they're like, no, I don't want you to do any of that. Like, are we also on Blind Obedience? No, we're on Stony Silence though. So we're just on every null rod effect, but no Blind Obedience. I wonder if are they on the new Dauntless person? No, it doesn't look like it.
Nah. But...
They are on Brina though. Brina the Demagogue for some advantage.
Yeah.
That card is. Have you ever read this card before?
I have in casual, right? And it's
because every time I read this card, I have a seizure.
It's so weird.
You want to read it to me, TK?
Yeah, for sure. So Brina, it's 1 white-black legendary bird warlock 1/3 flying. Whenever a player attacks one of your opponents, if that opponent has more life than another of your opponents, that attacking player draws a card, and you put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature you control.
I still don't know what this card does.
I always have to read it at least like 3 times for me to get it. And
if someone has it in the game, I'm like, okay, let me sit here and read this for like 3 minutes, until I understand it. But basically, it's basically like I draw an extra card for the most part, like.
Yeah. Yeah, make your things bigger, make your Timna attackers a lot bigger.
And it
Things
looks
like
like they're
that.
also on the new thing that hits a creature from each player, the kite sail Larcenous. This just came out next long, so they are on a Nixon card, just not the one
Yeah.
I thought they were.
Yeah.
It's what enters the battlefield for each player. You choose target artifact or creature, and you get to destroy one. So,
Yeah.
or sorry, for as long as the creature's on the battlefield, they become treasure. It's way more unique.
Got
So,
you.
yeah. Turns creatures into treasures. As long as this is on the battlefield, which is it's not bad, honestly. It hits
Yeah.
something on every player's board, which is definitely relevant. So yeah, maybe more people will pick this up and like slower, like, because they are like the cute thing about this card in this deck is it's a null rod deck, right? So when you
Right.
turn 3 things into treasures, there's they don't do anything. Which is pretty funny.
Yeah,
actually.
that's really cute. I like it a lot. It's definitely another approach to TNT. I think that's what a lot of people have been looking for, because the deck is
It is like max value interaction, and then like as far as I can tell, the only way we're winning this game is Thassa's Oracle.
Yeah.
Although I do see a Derevi in here, although I don't see I don't see an Emil to flick it, or like a Gaia's Cradle. So, there is a Gaia's Cradle, but no Emil.
Yeah.
So maybe just a value piece. Untap some mana, and because you don't have artifacts to value out with, so maybe just trying to make extra mana.
Yeah, I guess if Thoracle
It
doesn't go,
is a very interesting take on TNT, honestly. Like,
definitely. But I think
we are a
refreshing.
Mnemonic Betrayal, so
Yeah.
I guess Mnemonic Betrayal is in the way. We're also on step through, so just maximum amount of ways to get Oracle into our hand.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we're also on Scheming Symmetry, which is interesting, honestly, in a Timna deck. Like, if it's a turn you're gonna win anyway, like, I don't care if you put something on top of your deck, right? Like, I'm gonna draw my card with Timna, and then I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
You don't get your card, so it's just like an extra copy of Imperial Seal, basically.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, considering that a lot of people want to cut Imperial Seal a lot of the time, which I don't think you should ever really do in Timna decks. It's a very good card.
Yeah. Very similar to a Wishclaw Talisman for me, like with Scheming Symmetry. I'm only
definitely.
if I am going for the win, because you don't want to give people that, advantage. But I think it's funny that you mentioned like the Imperial Seal bit, because I was seeing some stuff earlier. Let me double check just to make sure I'm not misspeaking. But I do think Waffle cut it from his.
I do. I think people were talking that there was a list that did not have Demonic Consultation or Imperial Seal, which I don't really agree with, but whatever, you can do it. So it looks like Waffle is on Imperial Seal, and let's check this. Let's check the other player. Let's see, Joshua. So it looks like they are the one that they're on it too. Okay.
I saw something
Ori?
somewhere. Yeah.
Did the winner?
Yeah, let's look at number 1, Blue Farm.
Ori is the one that cut it. Okay, so Ori's not Ori's not an Imp Seal, and Ori is on Demonic Consultation though. So
got you.
I think you can cut Imp Seal. I still just think it's good in Timna Com decks. It also looks like they are on Reanimate, which I think is it's just a good card. Sometimes people are gonna play good creatures at some point. So
yeah, get some more value out of your Ranger Captain, I guess, if you want to. Stuff like that.
It looks like Ori has also adopted Boromir. Let's see what are some of the newer cards here. Fairy Mastermind, Boatmaster's Require. They are in Phyrexian Metamorph, which I think is quite interesting, and Phantasmal Image, so they really value copying Dockside. I mean, I can't argue with that, honestly.
I like Dockside too.
I like Dockside. Dockside's, I don't like Dockside, but I understand that Dockside is powerful. So.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, other than that, pretty standard, I think. They're on Path to Exile and Swords, offering looking for more creature removal here, so very interactive TNK list.
Yeah, so I guess in summary, Roxai is a terrible deck now. Everybody should sell it.
Yeah, definitely.
TNT's back.
You should
And
ignore the person on the Cobalt deck. It doesn't do anything.
don't even worry
They'll
about it.
misplay. You don't worry about it. Yeah,
Don't even
they'll
worry about it.
misplay. You don't even need to do anything. They'll lose to their own deck. So.
Yeah, and Blue Farm apparently still reigns supreme. And
Yeah, I mean the deck is always just gonna be good. Our Drake, who used to be with us, I had he drove me to the airport and we had a really nice conversation about it's really hard for prison decks to have a share of the meta when it's just embarrassing to be like, here's Torpor Orb, and then your opponent's like, okay, here's Breach, kill you. You have to defend against so many things as a prison player, not even from 3 different opponents, but just from the meta in general, right? The best decks can pivot so well away from plans that you need to be able to interact with everything.
Yeah.
Which is why Rule of Law is the best way, but even then you can end step Tainted Pact Oracle, you can still beat Rule of Law without removing it, which is it's a hard sell for me in Prison's Act, which I don't love. I'm not a prison player, I don't love them, but I do wish that they had more of a share of the meta.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really until we either I was talking to Drake, like I said, until maybe Breach is gone, I don't think you can really unless you just love playing prison, go to a tournament and be like, oh yeah, this deck is good, right? These prison decks are good, which is a little bit sad, honestly. And the other problem that we talked about is with prison decks, you still have to win. So it's a little hard for me to sell. I have to tutor for the right silver bullet piece. And I also have to still tutor for win like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And then prison decks are usually not in black. So it's even harder for me to tutor for these things, right? And I'm being asked to tutor for this one more thing, right? I have to have a silver bullet piece for the table, maybe a second one, but then also have an A+B combo to kill everybody, right? Because someone is going to wiggle out generally in these time tournaments. Someone is going to wiggle out from underneath you before you can kill everybody with combat damage or something else slower. You need this efficient kill and these silver bullet pieces to stop them, and you just don't have it, which is a bit sad, honestly, for all our prison enjoyers. It would be nice if they were represented in the meta a little bit more, but I think that's where we are at the moment. So
I think that was I've also had a very similar conversation with some buddies from my LGS. I think that was one of the things that made Winota, when it was kind of in its heyday, so attractive to a lot of people who enjoy stacks, was that you finally had this deck that was very progressive in doing it can lock down the game while also searching for that piece, whereas a lot of stacks decks just naturally...
and sometimes it just naturally kills you because of what Winota does, and that's good enough. And that is it's the only combat damage win I've ever seen kill some people consistently fast enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you would see it out of Kamal Timna, but I think the mana investment there is just way too much. You actually have to pay mana for your stacks pieces, where Winota is just oh, here's 3 stacks pieces, off triggers. So, and now that everyone gets a joke, I'm just going to kill you, Winota. You're never having Winota. It's not happening. Everyone gets that joke, and so it's hard for these prison decks to develop, and a good way for them to develop is to have multiple of them on the table, right? But because it's not a good strategy, that's just not going to happen. So you're always going to be in this 1v3 situation as a prison player, where you're the only one who actually wants these prison play pieces on the table.
Yeah.
And then you'll get people removing them at the quote unquote wrong time. But the people removing them, they might need to remove it because it's their only chance. I'm only going to get one more turn, right? I'm going to have to, and I have to remove this to win. So sorry, but I'm going to remove it, try to win. And if you stop me, well, okay, that I wasn't winning anyway. So
I think it's gonna take, like you said, Breach leaving is one thing, but I don't think that's likely. I think it's gonna take...
I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think Breach is played in almost literal any casual decks. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's here to stay for a long time. Maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Yeah.
But I was saying, I don't think, and I was on the train of oh, it'd be cool to ban partners and Kenneth and Gila, and then Ristic Dockside. That would be my ideal, let's shake up the meta, right? And then Drake's well, the meta's still like, like progressing, and we have a lot of diversity and blah, blah, blah. And I think the only thing that is really, really, really hurting diversity is Breach, right? You can't like play, like, because if you could play Torpor Orbs and
Mhm.
not just straight up lose to like Breach, I think you could actually play like Prison Deck, because
Yeah.
ETB hate stops so much of the format.
Yeah.
It stops creature combos, it stops Dockside, it stops Oracle, like it just stops almost everything you could want. And then as long as you get one of those down, you can kind of develop from there. But the
Yeah.
fact that you can put one down and then just lose to Breach, which is by far and away the best win con in my opinion, really sucks.
Yeah.
So
I think it's gonna take
that
something.
I'll leave everyone with that little tidbit for,
Yeah.
for the CDH meta at the moment, because
Yeah.
I think it was a very insightful conversation I had with Drake on the way to the airport. So
100%. I think it's gonna take something. Sans Commander, like in the 99, that's very progressive for these prison decks to
that's
be
the thing.
able
Like,
to.
we're
Yeah.
always excited for new commanders, right? But we really need cards in the 99 that help colors, right? Like
Yeah.
white and green really need like some kind of an efficient win con, right? Like in white, you can't really tutor, but you can kind of tutor for like enchantments. So maybe like some kind of enchantment win. Or like in green, green's identity is tutoring for Dockside, right? So
At
like
this point,
a
yeah.
lot of the green decks that don't have black, they just creature tutors for Dockside or creature tutors for like other creature combos like A+Bs. And that's fine, but we need something a little more efficient in green, I think,
Yeah.
to kind of like really push it over the edge. Because right now, green is just like, I'm good at getting Dockside onto the battlefield. So
Look
yeah.
at my creature tutors.
Yeah, look like creature. I can put the best creature into play. Yeah. I think that's kind of where we're at, and I would love to be proven wrong if
Yeah.
like someone comes up with a cool meta brew, and like, but I think like it's fairly figured out. You can always tune and add like these new, like we get a lot of like solid role player cards every
Mhm.
set in CDH, right? We're like, we got Dauntless, we got like this removal spell, like we get more and more of like these solid role player cards, and it would be really nice to see like some kind of explosive, like broken, like efficient win con in not Grixis.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think on that same like tidbit, I think that's probably why you see certain like anti-meta decks like this TNT build that we were just talking about really succeed.
yeah, absolutely. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, yes, like our meta revolves around artifacts,
Yeah.
and turning those off can sometimes just be enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone wiggles out of it and it's not enough, but sometimes it can be enough. And I would have loved to watch some of their games. I didn't get a chance, but like they must have piloted it quite well, because you can put these null rod effects down, but if you don't like diversify them, like we have like a creature null rod and an enchantment null rod, it's really not that hard to wiggle out of them, right? You just bounce one of them and then any off the races. So
and then you
really impressive top 4 from them. So should be super proud of that.
100%. But with that being said, I think it seemed like it was a great weekend for the format, just in general.
Super fun weekend.
Yeah. Seems like a lot of people were super excited about CDH as a whole this weekend, which I think is great. It's always what I look for. Yeah.
I think the format's growing, and it makes me really happy. It seems like a lot of people there were. The other thing that makes me very, very happy, there were more women players at this tournament than I have ever seen before, which is just amazing. Like, it made me so happy.
Yeah, 100%. Because like as we were saying, to bring this full circle, the best part of Magic is that gathering, and you want it to be open to everybody.
I want to be open to everyone. I want everyone to like come play the thing I love. Even if I play like shit, like come play Magic with me. That's great. And yeah.
Indeed, yeah. We can play like shit together. Look at that.
I know, that's great.
But yeah. So that, I guess, wraps it up on the Topdeck Expo. It sounds like a great event in general for the format. I'm super excited to see how the rest of this like championship series holds up.
Me too. I have a bunch of local events coming up that are like part of it, so I'll get to maybe redeem myself a little bit and do that. I don't know which big one I'll be going to next, but hopefully I can make it to one. So
yeah, same. Definitely on the lookout for like some more events here on the East Coast to try and go through. This next I want to say year. So I want to get back into grinding. Sure. It's been pretty long, so I definitely want to get
It's
back
super
into
fun.
it.
You meet a lot of great people. You see a
Yeah.
lot of the same, degenerate people, and I'm one of them. So it's super fun.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, that's pretty much all the time that we have for you guys. Real quick question for our listeners: if you made it all the way through, how did you like the Top Deck Expo? If you went, and if you didn't, what are some events that you're looking for in the Top Deck Championship Series that you're really excited about? Shout out your local LGS down below and let us know kind of what events we should be looking for. If it gets enough traction, you might see us talk about it here. Um, Absolutely.
Yeah, you never know. If you tweet out that you have like a championship series event, near you, maybe you'll get some more people there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much, Alana, for showing up again. I know
Anytime.
everybody loves having you. I enjoy having you here, so it's definitely
It,
always a
it's it's
pleasure.
always a pleasure, TK.
Yeah. Um, Make sure to give us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast aggregator. You would be surprised at how much it helps us. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and more. All of the links are in the description below. And yeah, we're wrapping up. Tune in next time when we talk more about our favorite format and our favorite game, Magic the Gathering. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next time. Take care, guys.